Okay, so I'll start by just introducing myself. So I'm the Interim Field Organiser for the Eastern Region, as Dan mentioned, and my role is to help you to win seats in the 2021 council elections. This is primarily focused on the county council elections, but also those delayed district council elections that were due to be taking place in May 2020 before the pandemic hit. It's not focused so much on parish and town council elections, just so you are aware. I provide training, advice and support to local parties who are running target campaigns. So this is when you, as a local party, are concentrating all of your resources on trying to win a smaller number of seats. So rather than spreading the resources thinly across every seat that you've got, you concentrate resources to give yourself a better chance of winning. So you're targeting to win. I'm a member of staff of the Green Party of England and Wales. So I'm a member of paid staff working closely with the regional committee of volunteers who have done a brilliant job at putting on the conference today. So just taking a quick moment to say thank you to them. And I also work with field organisers in the other English regions and also the field organiser for Wales. So for this short session, the objectives are to identify the aims of the Breakthrough 2021 campaign and how you can get involved. Appreciate why literature deliveries and capacity building is the way to win those elections and the need to start as soon as possible. To understand how to tackle some of the challenges, the unique challenges that we're going to have in this election, including COVID-19, what we call dual hat campaigns, where you've got county and district elections happening in the same place at the same time, which very rarely happens, but it's going to be happening a lot as a result of the pandemic. And also those larger county divisions, those big seats, which can be quite difficult to win on paper, and how to assemble your own Breakthrough 2021 campaign team. I think it would be remiss of me not to address the elephant in the room that is COVID-19. It's going to have, it has a big effect on our campaigns at the moment, and it might have more knock-on effects in the future that we can't anticipate yet. There are no certainties. But the disruption that this provides is also an opportunity electorally. It buys time for some of those campaigns in 2020 that maybe weren't going to get over the line. It gives another year to those campaigns. It reframes people's priorities around things which might be more in line with some of our values, and encourages people to focus a bit more on their local resources, the things they depend on from their councils. So there will likely be more interest in those elections in the future. In terms of what it means for your campaigns day to day, if you are already a campaigner, we strongly recommend delivering literature. It is safe to do so now, and where local parties have been delivering literature already, residents have generally been responding very well. It's best to deliver literature while you can, before the possibility of a second lockdown. If you go onto the members' website, there is a full list of full risk assessment on how to do so safely, and a full list of ideas of how you can take precautions to protect yourself and local residents. On that note, currently door knocking is not advised. This is mainly for reputational reasons, but there is also still that significant public health risk. But do please keep checking the members' website, because this advice will eventually change. I couldn't tell you when that advice will change, but it could be soon. It could be quite a bit further down the line. So do keep checking that out. In the long term, the way that we campaign to win seats, the way that we target to win, won't change significantly as a result of the pandemic. We're not suddenly going to switch everything we do to online campaigning, for example. That's something that works in tandem with our door-to-door campaigns that some of you may be familiar with. There'll be some areas now which, as a result of the pandemic, have district and county elections running at the same time. These might be the same boundaries, these might be with different boundaries. This could be confusing to residents. These are all questions we're going to come on to. But most of the planned boundary changes that could have been happening in your local area, and there were a number of areas across the East which were affected, have been delayed until after the 2021 elections. Not necessarily in all cases though, so please check your local council website to find out the latest information about any potential boundary changes in your area and how that might affect any campaigns you're working on. So in 2019, I think Sian alluded to this earlier, but we more than doubled our number of councillors across England. In fact, we trebled them in the East, which is absolutely brilliant. And this paves the way for us to break through onto many county councils in 2021. The new seats we won in 2019 were all at district council level. So this will be a real step up if we can increase our number of county councillors across the region, especially where we've already got district councillors in the same area or nearby. Now, despite and because of the pandemic, we do need to be campaigning now in order to win seats on county councils. We can't wait until there's a vaccine. We can't wait until social distancing has been removed as a policy, for example. It is necessary for us to be campaigning because if we lose too much time on that, we don't have enough time to make sure residents know who we are and build up what we call an effective frequency. So being able to speak to residents a certain number of times, whether that's in person or whether that's through putting literature for their letterboxes, so they know who we are and that we are hardworking. Now, I reckon there's about 15 to 20 parties across the region which have a really strong chance of winning or retaining at least one seat on district or county councils in 2021. If there's more than that, I will be blown away. But I think 15 to 20 absolutely can win at least one seat. And I think most of those will be winning multiple new seats if you can deliver an effective campaign. The Breakthrough 2021 programme, the programme itself gives specific support for those target teams. So that includes priority access to national and regional funding. That doesn't suddenly mean that you'll get a big checkbook to use on whatever you want, but it will mean that when there is funding available to help you supercharge those campaigns, it will typically be made available to you first. You'll get priority from visits from the leadership team, whether that's the current or what could be the new leadership team after the elections in a couple of months' time. And that can be physically or virtually, depending on what happens. You'll receive region-wide publicity of any regional action days or events that you have, again, whether they're physical or virtual. So the Eastern Green Party will be able to help you promote events happening to help you get Greens elected in your area if you're one of these target teams. You'll get detailed literature support from me as your field organiser. So this will be taking a look at your newsletters, providing you with expert editorial advice on what's going to resonate well with voters in your area, and supporting you with developing that and delivering a really effective plan. You'll also get monthly support calls from me during the long campaign, and fortnightly during what we call the short campaign. So that's that 6 to 8 weeks at the end where things really ramp up. And it's also a really great quality mark to the campaigning that you'll have been doing so far if you're recognised as part of this scheme. It then shows other activists around the region and around England and Wales that what you've been doing is really valuable and is best practice. So I'm now going to take the chance to hand over to Elfried. Some of you will have met Elfried before. She's the leader of the Green Party group on Suffolk County Council, and got elected to County Council in 2017. But I don't give away any more than that. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to Elfried.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can see me. I'm going to attempt to share my screen now. This is the first time I've done it, so bear with me. Okay, is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Brilliant. Fab. Right, hello everyone, I'm Elfried. I know a fair few of you on the call, which is really, really lovely. At the moment, I'm one of 3 county councillors at Suffolk County Council, and I'm really hoping to keep my seat and also have some more people join us, because sometimes it's lonely being green, so you'll hear this a lot, but the idea that we can have many more people joining us is fantastic for us as a party, but it's also fantastic for the planet. I'm going to talk about very, very briefly about why I became a Green, and that is pretty much solely due to this man, who lots of you will know, who is Graham Elliott. I arrived in Beccles over 10 years ago, and it was an absolute Conservative stronghold. The Conservative club in the middle, exactly what you'd expect from a small Suffolk town, except for one of our political representatives, and that was Graham Elliott, and he was just getting stuff done on the ground in quite a low-key way and just chatting to people. And that's the moment I decided to join the Green Party. So even when you're just at the beginning of changing things on the ground, all of that effort goes in. It's always worth it. There's always people watching and listening, even if they're not quite showing themselves yet. So politically, this is what Beccles looked like before our county council campaign. We had one district councillor out of the 6, the rest were Conservative, and all the county council representatives were also blue, and there were 2. I did say to Ed that I was going to take these slides out, but they were getting together was such a big part of our campaign that it kind of didn't make sense without them. And although we're not going to be able to get together this year in the same way, I would say to you all, make sure you're doing some fun things, make sure you're welcoming people, because the majority of people that will come and help you are not actually Green Party members. There will be people who will want you to win for a multitude of reasons. And that extends to action days and things. This is a rather low-key picture of my living room, but you'll find you have key supporters that want to go out and do everything. They may be Green Party members, they may not, they may be friends, they may be people who just support you on the ground. Welcome them in, even if it's in a socially distanced way, and get everyone involved. You'll need all the help you can get. We did things in the usual way, lots of newsletters. We followed the Target to Win campaign, and you can only really win with putting a lot of work in, and it's always worth putting the work in. But the main reason for this slide is to show how having simple messages is really important during a campaign. We had an issue with my name. My name is Elfriede, it's an unusual name. And we had noticed from speaking to people on the doors that they needed to be able to say it. So some delightful person in our local party came up with the slogan, "We're all agreed on Elfriede." And we used that continuously all the way throughout the campaign, so people had the confidence to say my name and not feel they were mispronouncing it. And sadly, people needed to know where I came from for a variety of reasons. I won't go into that now. So we had a little bit of background on the name, and that it's an Anglo-Saxon name, and why I had it. So that was one of our key messages, which really helped. And "Vote Elfriede" on all the posters became the local slogan. So the name originally was a liability, and we made it into something really positive. We had it on our calling cards as well, and people were stopping me in the street and saying, "We're all agreed, it has to be Elfriede," which was really, really cringy, but it did work. And our other key message was making sure that people knew we were the opposition, because people will never assume that the Green Party are the opposition. And often in local elections, and particularly in Suffolk, your local party will be the opposition to the Conservatives. So we had our nice graph on all our calling cards, but also this 127 votes. We only needed 127 votes to win, because there are two seats in Beccles. And I had a day out in Woodbridge, and someone stopped me in the middle of Woodbridge and said, "Oh, are you from the Green Party in Beccles? You only need 127 votes to get in, don't you?" And at that moment, I knew that slogan had really worked. So getting your message out, just a couple of key, memorable details to help your campaign are really important. You can guarantee that the main way you'll win is with lots and lots of hard work. Ed mentioned that you may well not be door knocking. Well, this was my personal door knocking map. Every time I door knocked an area, I got my felt tips out and marked it off on this map, and Graham, and we did it together. So that was a sort of motivational thing to show us how much progress we were making. We had the intention to knock on the household of every single door in the division, and we did do it, but probably wouldn't have been able to do it if we hadn't got our highlighters out. Hard work when you come to the short campaign is really important as well. Getting your signs out, making a visual spectacle in the area that you live. I know that some Green parties in Suffolk have done some fantastic things with sheep. We didn't quite go that far in Beccles, but we did get signs up everywhere. It was a visual experience to come through Beccles, and that has a significant psychological impact on the opposition other parties, and makes it really, really clear that you are a challenge that is prepared to work hard. And finally, and I put this at the end, that may be more important, social media. We've really used social media to our advantage. Private groups that organise supporters. We're trying not to get bogged down with issues. Everything here is really practical about how you win. Once you've won, you can talk about the issues that you passionately care about, but the point of a campaign is to win it. People shared leaflet routes that they were doing, and that built up a nice sense of community. And we did some fun things publicly on social media as well. And here we go. Here's the winning picture from the count. Really exciting time for us all. You can see the delight on Graham Elliott's face when he realises he's no longer a lone councillor in Beccles, and all the hard work that he put in. 10 years before I was even there was worth it, and that's my husband on the other side of me. And we had our own personal joke that behind every woman are two men, which is the opposite of the usual slogan. And the final bar chart, which showed we had well made up those 127 votes that we needed. The final thing I would like to say is there's not long now, really, in campaign terms before the next election, but it's always, hard work is always worth it on the ground. If you missed out narrowly in May, that hard work would translate to the next elections, and all the work that we did for the 2017 county elections on the ground paid off and helped us in the district elections that followed 2 years later. We transformed things on the ground. This was what the political scene was like after we'd won the county council district elections, and then 2 years later we won all the district seats on the ground and turned them all green. And that was how the graph looked 2 years after the county election. And in turn this year we hope to make the whole thing green, so that Beccles, Worlingham, North Cove and Barnby will only have green representation, as well as targeting 2 other seats in the Waveney area. So hard work always pays off, even if it doesn't immediately, and there will be repercussions, positive repercussions in the future if that work goes in on the ground now. Okay, now I have to work out how to not share my screen.
Thank you so much, Elfried. I think if you go to where it's a share screen again at the bottom, there should be an option to stop sharing, or Dan might be able to unshare it for you. I'm going to go back to sharing mine, and thank you again so much, Elfried, for taking the time out of what it sounds like an increasingly busy schedule as a leader of a council to come and talk to the region about your experience. And it's great to see how just tipping that bit over in the county elections made a mammoth difference in the district elections 2 years later, and I'm sure that cascade will continue in 2021 for you and Waveney. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about some of the common problems that come up. This might answer some of the questions you've had in the chat. I've only had a brief look. So one common problem associated with county council elections is, well, county wards can be massive. They can be really big. They could cover multiple districts. How are we going to do that if we've only won one little district? Well, the little big thing is not always the case. Some county wards are the same size as district wards. Some of them are even smaller. It really depends on the area. But if you are in one that's quite a bit bigger, remember that turnout is similar to that in district elections. So the rate of people you're looking to get to isn't, it's not exponentially larger. There are more opportunities to get more people involved if you're covering a larger area. Where you might have activated a small base of people in one district, you can then transfer the learnings you had from that and the experience you built to multiple areas and really start to branch out. And by focusing on achieving effective frequency in populated areas, you can be making sure that you're maximising your vote. Another problem that we hear sometimes is that it's hard to get excited about county council elections. And I think considering what we've been experiencing in the last few months, this has never been less true. There are county councils which have a lot of power and are increasingly important in our lives. If we think of the amount that parks have suddenly started to mean to us now, in most places they are primarily controlled by your local county council or a city council. So the influence they have has transformed in the last few months. We can get multiple Green councillors elected on many county councils. It's not a case of there's going to be one person in the room, they're going to be on their own anymore. In Suffolk, we now have 3 county councillors because of the work in Beccles, and that work will start to cascade out. So the idea of being the lone Green in the room is something we can start to move past with this breakthrough. And it's a step up from a district council, and that brings us a step closer to a parliamentary constituency. If we're serious as a party about getting a companion for Caroline Lucas in Parliament, then moving from district level to county council is a really important stepping stone on that journey. Only when we can show that we can deliver at that county level will we be able to go, right, we are confident that we can start to deliver at a parliamentary level. So it's a really important stepping stone for us. When you've got combined council elections, this sort of dual hat scenario that I talked about earlier, are voters going to get confused by that? Well, there's a couple of simple ways to alleviate any confusion that might come out of it. Ask for both their votes. Ask them to vote for you in both the district and the county elections. We don't have to be shy. We don't have to be coy about it. We don't have to go, oh, I'm not sure if we'll get that. Ask for both of them, even if you're only targeting one, even if you're only targeting the district and not the county, or vice versa. Ask for both. You might just get both. If the boundaries are the same or they're very similar, you can target both without lots of extra work. You're not going to have to write lots of different nuanced leaflets because that street's in one place and that street's in another place. If your boundaries are 80, 90% the same, you can put out one piece of material and have your county and your district candidates featuring on that same piece of literature. That's completely fine. And in terms of the confusion, it's a unique situation, and it's going to be up to the government and councils where they are affected to explain how next year's elections are going to work to voters. They've got an incentive to make that work themselves. It's not going to be down to you to have to explain all of that. Another problem that comes up more generally for council elections is, well, they seem quite a long way away. Can't we have a break? Now, we've all had a bit of a break from campaigning in person. It's not necessarily been a break. I think we've all been very busy in ways that we might not have expected. Many of our lives will have changed immeasurably as a result of the pandemic, but we haven't been out on the doorstep for a long time. And it's important that we get out there when we have the opportunity to do so. We don't get the same media coverage of the main parties. Things have improved, but not enough. So it's up to us to get the word out locally when it comes down to district and county elections. And most of you will have already progressed your district campaigns in particular, those ones that were going to be in 2020, but you'll need to pick up the momentum again. Some of it will feel like starting fresh. Some of it will be picking up exactly where you left off with a different piece of literature. But it will take a little bit of time to get the ball rolling again. And the last thing on all council elections, which comes up quite a bit, I think we might have had a couple of questions about it. Well, we can't deliver leaflets, it costs too much. We haven't got the money as a local party. Now, there are startup grants available from the regional party. And as I mentioned, priority is given to those target seats where the investment is most needed. There's lots of advice available on the members' website on how you can raise funds, and I'm very happy to direct you to some of those resources. But I think it's crucial to remember that raising funds to deliver a winning campaign is a necessity. It's part of the way of working in delivering a winning campaign. It's proven to work, and it is worth making that investment. We're not talking about astronomical numbers here. You don't need lots of big ticket donors, but you need to raise some funds as a local party in order to be able to afford to deliver that campaign. And so it needs to become part of the way you work. And I'll just touch on the nature of campaigning during a pandemic. Just to emphasise, it is safe to deliver literature. Providing you take appropriate precautions and follow the guidance on the members' website, you can do so safely. And so far, voters are responding well. We're not getting reports of people on their doorsteps chasing people away because they don't want to be infected. That's not what's happening. If there's a second lockdown and you haven't campaigned, then the opportunity to win might be lost. We don't know how long a second lockdown could last if it happens. It might only happen in your area. It might not happen everywhere else. But that opportunity could suddenly be gone. And by the time you've delivered one or two pieces of literature, we're hopeful that it might be safe to go out door knocking again. We don't know exactly how long that will take, but if you've done that and you're getting up to speed with your literature, you've then got something to ask people about and say, are you getting our newsletters? And running an effective campaign, you don't need to gather 30, 40 people in a room. That's not the way you have to do it. You can do things at a distance. You can meet up one-on-one to hand over literature. There are, you can get things delivered individually. There are ways of getting around that. I realise we're running quite short on time. Dan, would you like me to skip over the last few bits or go into questions, or would you like me to continue for another 5 minutes?
Well, depending if my Wi-Fi is working properly, because I'm having issues. I've missed a lot of that, what you said, so I don't know what's really been covered. Okay. It's depending on how everybody feels. Are they happy to continue? It'd be great if people gave a thumbs up.
It would just be another 5 to 10 minutes in total.
I'm having issues with my connection.
I'll tell you what, I'll continue for the time being, and I'll be as brief as I can.
There seems to be a view that you should carry on.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and I'll send this around afterwards, of what a winning campaign plan looks like. And if you are, if you are serious about targeting a seat in the county or delayed district elections next year, this is what it will require. It's not a big monolithic thing. It's something we can break down into 5 targets for the first month, the first 3 months, months 4 to 6, and months 7 to 9. And that takes you right through to that short campaign at the end. So in the first month, so in July, things you need to do are draft, print and deliver that first post-lockdown newsletter. There's guidance I can send you, get in touch with me about what that might look like, how to get the style and how to get the tone right with that first post-lockdown piece of literature. Set up your team on Action Network. If you're a party coordinator, you should have received an email in the last couple of weeks inviting you to Action Network, the party's new tool for generating action, for getting members infused, and for recruiting and retaining volunteers. Get yourself a copy of the marked register from your local council and build and tidy up your database if you have one, or use it as a chance to build your database. That marked register is a list of all of those people who voted at your last election. Use that to work out who you need to go and speak to when you're able to go door knocking again. Now's a great time to build it. Run a capacity building event online. If you haven't already, take a chance to invite your members to a meeting on Zoom or on Jitsi or on another online platform. Have a chat with them, have a social, get a bit more serious if you want, but use it to try and get people to pledge to take on actions when they can head out again. Hopefully you'll be in touch with me already if you are a target team, but in the next month, we're going to be agreeing your long campaign plan. So working out what your plan is going to be for the next 9 months. Months 1 to 3, deliver your next newsletter, call around all your members and ask them to take on some roles or make a donation to your campaign, do a little bit of light fundraising. If it's safe to do so, this would hopefully be the time we can start doing surveys with residents on their doorsteps. Send some emails to your members and supporters using Action Network. Hopefully you'll have got set up by that point. And ensure everyone in your team attends some of the campaign training sessions. Have a look on the members website for more information about the online training program. There's a session I'm hosting on Tuesday on door knocking and how to door knock safely if you're interested. Over the next 4 to 6 months, so this will be later on in the year, print and deliver your pre-Christmas newsletter. Send an addressed letter to existing voters. Knock on 50% of the doors if it's safe. Set up a team to contact members regularly to invite them to events so you don't have to do it all yourself. Start delegating that work out. Run a petition, host a Christmas social. And then 7 to 9 months, so we're thinking early 2021 here. It feels a long way, but it will creep up on you. A couple more newsletters. Announce your candidates. Let your constituents know who should be their next representative. Knock on all the remaining doors you've got if it's safe to do so by that point. Agree your key messages. What are the things that you want to be saying to voters? Set up an election fundraiser. Start to build up that war chest for the short campaign where the lion's share of work is going to take place. And call your volunteers and get them to agree to step up into roles for the campaign. And just to summarise, you are capable of delivering all of this. It feels like a lot now, but if you get started now and you start taking on those tasks, bit by bit, it will get easier. You can break it down into bite-sized chunks. You're not alone. Pick up the phone, ask other volunteers to help you. Contact me by phone or by email. Ask me to help you and provide you with advice and support. And remember that we only get councillors elected because of the hard work of our volunteers. If it's not going to be you, then who is going to do this? Who is going to step up? Okay. Apologies for overrunning a little bit there. I realise it's 4 o'clock. Dan, I don't know if you'd like me to take any questions.
There we go. Right, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Good. Let's see how long this lasts. So one of the questions that we've had come in is, when we win breakthrough seats, what support do lone new councillors need, or do we give?
So in terms of the specifics, I probably wouldn't be able to answer, but I recommend that you speak to the Association of Green Councillors. So Sally, who spoke earlier today about 1 o'clock, runs the Association of Green Councillors. And so the idea of that is that's a network that was set up specifically for this reason, where we had lots of lone councillors around the country. I think quite a lot of them might have felt quite isolated or didn't know where to seek advice and support from. That's exactly what they're for. So I recommend that you speak to the Association of Green Councillors and find out what specific advice and support they can offer. I know one thing that they can do is buddy you with more experienced councillors or councillor teams from other parts of the country who might be able to give you advice on the general nuts and bolts of life as a councillor.
Can I add to that, please, Ed?
Of course.
Yeah, Richard Beerman, former county councillor. There's also a number of former councillors, district and county, across the region. And I think one thing we would like to see more of, and I'll be talking to Ed about this and the AGC, is a network within our own region of people who have stepped down for various reasons or lost their seats. So you can buddy up with somebody who I've discovered after you stop being a councillor, you suddenly have your life back. So you might as well do something useful with it and help somebody else. That's an excellent idea. Thank you very much for raising it, Richard. And I encourage you all to draw on Richard's experience and expertise from his time as a Norwich City Councillor. Well, I didn't get everything right, obviously, but we can make new mistakes together. It makes the lessons all the more valuable.
Right, thanks for that, Richard. Next question is, in 2021, there is going to be a double burden on groups, surely. The 2020 delayed district council election and the county council elections, that is double the leaflets to prepare and hand out. Quite a lot to raise, as well as candidates' deposits, is it not? I don't think, obviously, deposits happen for local elections, only parliamentary elections and other regional elections. But yeah, obviously there's going to be a burden for local parties, Ed, and so there's going to be a lot to not only prepare for, but also with leaflets, fundraising, etc. Do you think that it is going to be a burden on a lot of local parties?
I think Robert has just very helpfully summed it up in the comments for me very succinctly. Put both candidates on the same leaflet. It doesn't necessarily mean double the leaflets. All right, there will be some cases where you've got a district and a county seat, and they only overlap about half each, and then the county seat's much bigger. There will be a few isolated cases like that where actually in practice that can become, become much larger. We're aware of the majority of those cases, and if you think that your target seats are a situation like that, please talk to me and see what arrangements we can come to. But where you've got seats where the boundaries are very similar or even the same, I know someone like Norwich, for example, the boundaries are exactly the same in some parts and slightly off in others. Then actually putting both those faces on the leaflets are absolutely fine. There are also some cases where you might want to select the same candidate for both. That can sometimes make communication simpler as well. There are some advantages to that, though, of course, some disadvantages to that in having individuals as public representatives too. So something to consider, but it's not as stark as you need double every time.
Brilliant, thanks, Ed. I don't think we have anything else come through.
Okay, well, we'll wrap it up there. I just want to say thank you very much to all of you for sticking around for this session and for a little bit longer. I appreciate I was a little tardy on time there, my bad. You can contact me on ed.fraser@greenparty.org.uk. I'll pop that in the chat. My phone number and Zoom details are also available upon request if you want to have a chat with me at any time. My working days are typically Monday to Thursday, 9 till 5. As you can see, with me being here with you on a Saturday, I can be flexible where needs be. So thank you very much for joining, and I'll hand back over to Paul to close out the conference.